Hello, this is Jennifer Forsyth. Today we're going to be completing our data overview for Adairsville Elementary School. Adairsville Elementary School is located in Adairsville, Georgia, in North Georgia. We're going to be talking about grades 3rd through 5th today, and we're going to cover the years 2018 to 19, 2017 to 2018, and 2016 to 2017. All of these years will be looked at through our Georgia Milestones assessments. The purpose of this is for us to discuss data from the Georgia Milestones over the last 3 years. We're going to look at possible trends in data at our school level, while we will also be looking at possible trends through the county and state level also. A couple of guiding questions to think about as we go. Where does our data stand compared to the county and state? Is our data going in the right direction? And what can we do to help in the areas that we need improvement? We'll come back to those questions at the end. So jumping right into some data, let's look at the number of students that are enrolled each spring. The Georgia Milestones are given each spring. So if you look at our years, you see that we have 4th grade in red, 5th grade in blue, and 3rd grade in green. Each year we have kind of fluctuated with how many students we have as a whole. We had 339 this last year in 2018 and 2019. By looking at this, we can see that it's not really how many students we have in each grade level, but what those students in those grade levels perform. So let's continue looking. We have some demographics to look at. If you look at the students in 3rd through 5th, you can see that gender is pretty equal throughout all 3 years. Boys a little more than girls for a couple of those years. Also, the percentage of students based on race and ethnicity. We have more for the 2017-2018 period than we did any other year for different subgroups, but throughout all the years they kind of stay equal. But 2018 and 2019 we did have more students in the Black category. The Hispanic category has stayed pretty well the same, as well as the multiracial group, but the White category has gone down over the years. So our demographics have changed a little bit for those students. Other subgroups to talk about is our limited English proficient students, or we would call them our ELL students. We can see that it's actually fluctuated again from 2% of those students, 4%, and 3%. Students who are eligible for free and reduced meals stay pretty well together, but have gone down over the 3 years. And then students with disabilities has actually gone up over those 3 years from 9.1% to 11.2%. So a couple of things to be thinking about as we move forward. Let's jump into our teachers. For the teachers, our number of positions have not changed. We have had 48 teacher positions for all of those years. That does not include our administration positions or any classified positions. So parapros are of that nature. These are only certified teaching positions. So years of experience, the average is about 14, and it stays there all 3 years, where some of them move up and down over the years. We do have a couple that have over 30 years experience, to where most of the teaching experience comes from 11 to 20 years in all of those categories. So more for the teachers. Looking at gender, we had 2 male teachers in 2018 and 2019. where we only had one in the previous years. Looking at race and ethnicity, we have predominantly white in all of those years, with one multiracial each year. Let's move into looking at our milestone test scores. Starting at the school level, now that we have some background knowledge of the students and teachers, we can look at how our students are performing. So this is our school as a whole in language arts and mathematics. For this, it has broken down in how the students scored on their test. So beginning learners means they're not really there yet. That's the lowest of the scores that they can earn. Developing learners, they have moved up. They're kind of getting the aspect of what's being asked of them, but they're not quite there yet, not meeting that standard. Then we move into proficient learners. That means these students have mastered that standard. They understand what's being asked of them and they can show their knowledge of that standard. The last one is distinguished learners. Through distinguished learners, those are those students who have exceeded expectations. So by looking at that, we look at our language arts, and you can see throughout the years how many of our students in the blue and the green, how many of those students have basically met standard or exceeded standard. The two different shades of purple are the students that still need a little bit of that extra help. So by looking at all 3 years, you can see that the students that have become distinguished learners has actually increased over all 3 of those years. So that is great for us. Whereas the students who are proficient learners, we are kind of up and down on that one. We went down in the past year of 2018 and 2019. As well as the beginning and developing learners, they're in that 20 to 30 range for both of those. We have brought that number down since looking at 2016 and 17 into 2018 and 19. The number for developing learners and beginning learners have both decreased. So we feel like we're making progress in that area. Let's jump over to the mathematics side. For mathematics, you can see that the number of distinguished learners has actually decreased each year, whereas the number of beginning learners has also decreased. So, with that being said, we might not have as many students exceeding those scores, but we also don't have as many students who need extra help in those areas. We still have developing learners, which has increased, and we have the proficient learners, which has increased. But with those students, we can take those that are developing learners and push them over to that proficient level. So that is at the school level. Let's move on to the county level. Here's our Bartow County data. So out of all of that, we can see that in language arts, our distinguished learners have increased over the years, as well as the number of beginning learners has decreased slightly. It did increase in 2017 and 18, but it has gone down. As a whole, in English language arts, it shows that some of our proficient learners may be becoming distinguished learners, which is what we like to see. We would just like to push that number of developing learners into those proficient learners. For the county mathematics scores, we have increased our distinguished learners over the years, as well as decreased the beginning learners, which we like to see. We are improving on those proficient learners and those distinguished learners in mathematics. So our numbers in mathematics as a county are improving, and that's where we want them to go. Moving into state, looking at the state numbers, you can see that we have less students in 2018 and 19 than we did in 2016 and 17. We want to make sure that our numbers are growing in that distinguished learners statewide, just like they are. And the beginning learners are a little more across the board, about the same they have been for all 3 years. Our mathematics data is also showing that our distinguished learners are improving over the years. And once again, those beginning learners are hovering about the same. So it's just a matter of, at the state level, trying to push these developing learners in both areas, English language arts and mathematics, over into those proficient learners. Looking at language arts, you can see that just by looking at the graphs, that all of our data looks pretty well the same in all 3 areas, at the school level, the county level, and the state level. Where we would like to see more students in the blue than in the purples, we are moving in the correct way for language arts for our school as distinguished learners. Again, we've got to break that barrier between the developing learners and the proficient learners to help increase that score. Mathematics, all of the graphs, again, kind of the same. At the state level, we have many more distinguished learners percentage-wise than we do at the school level. Our school level has gone down, so by looking at those scores, those percentages, we want to push again these developing learners into proficient and proficient into distinguished. So that is something that we can come back to with our guiding questions. Looking at English language arts, here's it broke down on our school level based by grade level. So you're looking at the bottom at those beginning learners, all the way up to the top to the distinguished learners. Now, these 3rd grade students are the ones that would be in 4th in the 3rd grade students in 2016 and 17 are the students in 4th grade in 2017 and 18, and 5th grade in 2018 and 2019. So we have increased those scores for those students over those 3 years. So we want to continue that trend and figure out what we have done for those students. In mathematics, it would be the same. These 3rd grade students in 2016 and 17 would be 4th in 17 and 18 and 5th in 18 and 19. Whereas we're looking at that, our numbers are not quite as good as we had hoped. So we want to move back to this 12.7% that we saw with these friends in 3rd grade and figure out why their numbers dropped in 5th grade. So back to our guiding questions. Where does our data stand compared to the county and the state? Is our data going in the right direction? We know that our data is going in the right direction for language arts, but in math, we need some work. So, your job. What can we do to help in the areas that need improvement? What can we do as a whole to figure out what we can do for our students to become more proficient in their math scores?